kind of offer a variety of services. We are a breeding program, so we breed registered quarter horses and paints. We've been doing it for over 15 years now. We've sold horses all across Canada and the US and even one to Europe now. So we're a growing business, I guess. And we started out pretty small, but we've kind of gone up from there. We foal out anywhere from now like 5 to 7 mares a year of our own. We're starting to also bring in clients' mares as well to start foaling out. So I think this year we actually have 11 on the docket. So we have 7 of our own, 2 clients, quarter horse mares, and 2 mini donkeys that we'll be foaling out. So we'll have a very busy spring. All of our horses, as you can see, live out 24/7. So they have the option to come and go from their shelters. As they get closer to their due dates, we bring them into the barn so that they can be under cameras for monitoring. We also install foal alerts, which I can kind of show you guys all about as well. That give us pretty much a guaranteed the mare is foaling alarm to let us know that she's about to pop out a baby so that we can be there for all the births. And they're allowed, like they can wear them out in the field, which is nice, so they can still go out during the day, have their turnout, and then come in the barn at night if they're looking suspect or close. So they all live in herds. We try to make the herds, you know, work together. So we try to put similar horses in the herd that have similar personalities. We try not to put bullies with really passive horses, because then they don't get access to the hay maybe as often as they should. We feed all of our horses with slow feed hay nets that you can kind of see in their paddocks here now. We love them. The horses actually like them. They'll have the option of loose hay and they'll still choose to pick out of the nets. So it stimulates their mind more. It basically acts like grazing. So when they graze, they pick and they nibble and they you know, choose through things rather than just hoovering in large mouthfuls of loose hay. It extends their hay longer, so they get to have the bale in front of them basically 24/7. We don't have to worry about them running out overnight because they've always got hay there. We've got different sized holes depending on the paddock. There's 3 sizes of holes that you can get for the slow feed nets that we buy from Hay Chicks. Most of the horses are on the medium hole. We don't have anyone on the super slow feed hole. We do find the horses tend to get a bit frustrated with it. It works really good for the sheep because they got tiny little mouths, but we find the horses struggle a little bit with it and they just get frustrated and start chewing holes in the net. So we avoid those ones. So for the really big piggies, the ones that tend to overeat, because they do have unlimited hay and it will happen, they're going to definitely overeat their 1 to 2% of body weight a day in hay, so they are on the smaller hole nets to try to prevent that. And then the ones that maybe need a little bit more or aren't gluttons, then they get the regular sized holes. Everyone's got big water tubs in their paddock with heaters for the winter so that they're all getting lots of water. On the new property, we're going to be installing automatic waterers for everyone. Here we're basically mostly post and rail fence with electric. We have found that's been pretty sturdy over the years. We have a lot of deer that like to take down our electric fence, so we tend to avoid just electric strands. So we pretty much got post and rail everywhere, but for the new property we are kicking out the wood rails and we are going to a flex rail, which is like a vinyl rail, and it's like a continuous fence. So we're hoping that will prevent a lot of maintenance that we need to do currently to maintain the wood fence. Being in Nova Scotia, the weather is not kind on wood, so it does rot eventually. So we find that we have to replace a lot of rails due to this. So most of our fences are right around the, I'd say 6 to 8 year mark, and pretty much all the rails need to be replaced. Even though we were told that they should be good for 10 to 20 years, it's not the case because of the environment. It's just so wet that unfortunately the wood net doesn't really get a chance to dry out and it just kind of stays constantly soggy. So then eventually you get rails that are breaking, which is not ideal. Do you want to go in the foaling barn and do that? Yeah. This is the foaling barn, and we've got 2 foaling stalls. They're 12 by 14. And we basically start bringing them in here when we're suspicious that they might be getting close to their due date. Key over there, she's due in 13 days, but her mother has always gone early, so we kind of have her on close watch. And she waxed up for the first time last Tuesday night. So waxing, if you don't know what that is, basically they get little, looks like wax-like secretions on the end of their teats. And it's basically to prevent the colostrum from leaking out. So it's kind of a safety method for the mares so that they don't leak their colostrum out. It generally means milk is coming in. So it can mean that foaling can be imminent, but some mares do their own thing and they can drag it out for a while. So most mares will wax and usually foal within like 72 hours. But maiden mares, so she's a first-time mom, they kind of play by their own rules and they make it up as they go. So they're a little less predictable because you don't have anything to base off of what they've done previously. Most mares will eventually get a like a trend, so we can kind of predict ones that we foaled out several times. They're pretty predictable. We know when they're probably getting close, and we can, you know, have them brought in just before they foal, sort of thing. Where she's a maiden, she gets to spend a little bit more time inside because of that, just because we want to monitor her a little closely. And then Holly B, that's over here, she's also due the same time, they're actually due the same day, but she's in early because she decided to put her foot through a wall and cut up her leg. So she's in with a wrapped foot, under monitoring. So she gets to hang out in here and keep Key company. And you can see if you look in the stalls too, there are hay nets in the stalls as well. They're the Hay Chicks freedom feeders or free up feeders. And they just unclip from the wall. You just pull them down, you stuff your hay in, and you clip them back to the wall. So they work really good for the mares. It keeps the hay off the floor, so that doesn't sound very pleasant. But we do lidocaine blocks and everything first. And basically, strangers. So you can see this little device here. So one side is sutured onto one side of the vulva, and the other side is sutured onto the other. And then there's a magnet that's in the device. So when the foal is coming through the birth canal and opening up through the vulva, it pulls the magnet out of the device and sends us an alarm to say that the mare is having a baby. Get to the barn. So we love these because it gives us peace of mind. We can sleep at night because we don't have to constantly be watching the mares, because a lot of mares like to foal at 3 o'clock in the morning. So we do generally check the cameras throughout the evening, but this is kind of a surefire way that when the baby's coming, we're gonna get notified. And we've got it set up so that my husband has the house set up so that it's on, basically all the lights come on in the house and let us know that the baby's coming if it's in the middle of the night, and kind of lights up my path to come out to the barn. And then we also get texts on our phones and emails on our phones to say there's a baby coming. So it's nice and modern. Like I said, the mares don't mind it at all. We just kind of suture it in with a little bit of suture material there. And like I said, once the baby starts to break through the canal, this little part that's right here will get pulled out of the device. That's where the magnet will pop out. And then that lets us know that they've got the baby on the way.
Are they reusable?
They are. So the blue ones, there's blue and red ones. Red ones are single use, blue are multiple use. So we always test them every season beforehand to make sure that they're going to work, because the battery doesn't tell you how long it's going to last. So it's always good to just check it. So we do check it to make sure that it's good before we put them in. And then, yeah, you can use them usually up to 10 times, which is nice. Yeah, it's a little bit of an expensive system to get, but it's definitely worth the peace of mind.
How much are they average?
The long range receiver and just basically the basic kit is almost $3,000. Yeah, and then each one of these guys is a couple $100. So it is expensive, but when you're foaling out multiples of mares,
yeah,
it makes it worth it. Yeah, and like there's been times where like the mares show no signs of foaling, and if we didn't have this, we would have missed the birth and potentially missed helping them if there was an issue. So this just gives us that perfect peace of mind that we don't have to worry about it.
So they live outside, and then you foal them out in here, and then how long do they stay in here before they go back outside?
Well, normally we would have our small indoor that we would use for turnout. So this year we're probably going to be using our hay barn for turnout. So we don't, like, unless it's really warm during the day, if there's snow and stuff down, we tend not to let them out outside. Normally we would turn them out in our small indoor arena where they could just run all day. They're under cover, they've got nice warm footing so that they're not laying in the cold. This year we're going to have to improvise a little bit.
Right.
We lost our small indoor in Fiona. That's the remains of the building over there that you probably saw coming down the driveway. So normally that was our full turnout space. We do have a paddock up top that's high and dry and sand footing, so we can use that for turnout as well for the babies. So we'll do that usually when they're a couple of weeks old. We'll start turning them out outside as long as they've got access to a shelter. It just kind of depends on the weather. If it's really muddy, they stay in. If it's cold, they'll stay in. Rainy and wet, they'll stay in. They're not very good at thermal regulating, and they lay down a lot. So adult horses can stand all day and be quite fine with that and then come and lay down at night, but babies are laying down and napping every few hours, if that, probably every 20 minutes or so. So they get up, they nurse, they run around, they nap. So that's pretty much their life. So we want to make sure that they're not going to be laying somewhere wet because, like I said, they're not always the brightest and they'll choose to lay in a mud puddle. Because they'll usually lay wherever mom is and mom's standing, so mom doesn't care what the footing is necessarily. So the babies can get chilled that way. We have blankets that we put on the babies, usually for the first few weeks as well, to help with the thermal regulation because they, again, aren't very good at it. They're very prone to pneumonia and getting sick. So we put actually dog blankets on them. They work really good. They're just Velcro front and Velcro belly strap, and we've got various sizes, and they've got a nice fleece lining on the inside so they keep them nice and toasty. So we usually do that for the first few weeks until they're able to kind of regulate a little bit better and the weather is a little bit more cooperative. Go, honey. And then this is our stallion, Cruz. You guys can come on, Cruz. You might get mom. And they pulled it. What? You bumped your head.
What a handsome fella.
You sound pretty cute.
Oh my.
I'm pretty handsome. So this is Cruz. So he's our herd sire. So he's the stallion that's been bred to all of our Tobiano mares. So he's got 5 babies coming this year. We've had him since he was 6 months old. He came up from Iowa. Through an American import. So yeah, he's a pretty good boy. He's quiet, as you can tell. He's a pretty good boy. He's living next to the other boys, and they'll play over the fence and stuff like that, and run back and forth. And normally he lives out with our mares, but we just pull them out shortly before foaling, just for safety. He has been actually there for a birth before. One of our mares surprised us and went 9 days early with no warning signs, and he was out in the field with her, and he was just standing over the baby, protecting it. Yeah, he was so good.
So you do live breedings then, like natural breedings?
Yeah. Yeah, so we do live cover with him. Our new stallion, who's just going to be coming up to being bred this year, hopefully is the plan. We're going to try collecting him, see how it goes, because all the mares we want to breed him to are going to have foals on their side. So that makes things a little complicated, where he doesn't know what he's doing. The mares tend to be really protective when they have foals on their side, as understandably. Cruz knows the drill, and he's super respectful of the mares, and he knows to stand back when they say no. He goes, yes ma'am, and he minds his manners. But where Trip hasn't bred before, it would be a lot for him. Frozen or fresh cooled semen shipped. We breed them with AI.
How old is he?
He's 10.
10.
Yeah.
Do you plan on doing your own collection, or?
We do. Yeah. My artificial vagina should be arriving today.
Exciting.
Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna give it a shot. We'll probably try with him first because he has been collected once before. He went to the island. He collected frozen semen. So he's got some frozen semen babies on the ground. So he'll be our guinea pig. So we're gonna try it out with him because again, he kind of knows the routine, so he should probably pick it up pretty quickly. And then we will hopefully be able to offer him as well for ship semen. We don't live cover any outside mares. We had a really bad experience a couple of years ago where we had to euthanize our stallion due to an injury during breeding to an outside mare. So we don't do that anymore. It's not worth the risk. It was extremely dangerous for us because these mares were unpredictable and some of them weren't very well handled, which made it high risk for us. And then of course high risk for the stallion because we couldn't predict the mares. Like our mares we know well, they're very respectful and we can read them really well. And they would never put us in the line of fire, but these outside mares were psychotic. So we avoid them now. So hopefully if we can start collecting him, we'll be able to offer him to outside mares for fresh cooled, which is more, I guess, desirable to most breeders because frozen can be a little tricky. You have a very narrow window of when you're going to be successful to get your mare bred with frozen semen, where fresh cooled is a little bit more forgiving and you have a little bit more of a window there to get those mares pregnant. And then